which is why deconstruction needs to take place, so that we don't frame it from our previous experiences of religious programming. That's why going back to God each time and asking what his view is, what show us your heart in this, is so vital. Not making the assumption that we know we can speak on behalf of God. You know, it is what deconstruction does. You know, it basically gets you to look at everything you thought was true or right, and to bring that to the scrutiny of the Spirit to show you what programming was in that. And sometimes it's mixed, and sometimes it's hard to discern all of the thing, which is why deconstruction is a process, not an event. So we bit by bit have our mindsets renewed, and we get deprogrammed bit by bit, so that hopefully eventually we will have no programming which comes outside of God's heart. And then he won't program us, he will bring us into agreement, and we can surrender to that agreement, which is very different from being forced into change. You know, I surrendered to change because I saw how important and how valuable it was. I didn't resist, other than occasionally when I thought this was so radically different that I'm going to get into trouble with people if I go this route. But it didn't last very long. I was just almost thinking, how much hassle am I going to get in? But in reality, I always surrendered, and, you know, mostly quite quickly, because I realized, why would I want a mindset, a belief system, a program view, which wasn't God's? You know, so it's not easy, of course. And for me, it would never have been enough for someone to try and use information to renew my mind. See, if God told me things, I wouldn't have believed them. I would have doubted whether God was speaking to me when I started this journey, because it would have been so challenging. And all it would have been is information trying to change other information. This is wrong information, this is right information, so the right information will change the wrong information. It didn't. What changed was the experiences that I had, that God gave me, that made the information and the programming that I previously believed impossible to believe anymore. That's what cognitive dissonance does. It so shakes the belief system that you had, you can no longer have it if you have any integrity. That's how the change came about. So God just took me through encounters and encounters and encounters and encounters that made it impossible to believe what I previously believed anymore. That's how things change. For me, your encounters with God will change what you believe. Just someone telling me that that's wrong would never change it. Even God telling me it was wrong wouldn't have been strong enough on its own to change me. Because, well, do I believe that? Well, when I've seen it, when felt it, experienced it with my own eyes, my own emotions, and I've encountered it in reality, then there's no option. I have no option. How could I possibly carry on believing what I used to believe when I've just experienced several encounters that have totally radically challenged those previous beliefs? And I felt what God's heart was, and I felt how much loving he is, and I felt it, and I received it, and I saw how he saw other people with that. I couldn't keep the way I believed, so those beliefs just were deconstructed and fell away, and were replaced by not so much as a belief system, but as a value system based in love. It's not so much, well, I believe this now. It's no, this is what my whole value system is now. You know, that's how transformatory it was, how radically changing it was. But it wasn't easy, you know. And if back in 2010, when I was first able to engage God in that way in the realms of heaven. If he had told me what he was going to do, you know, that he eventually sort of got to in 2016, 17, 18 and onwards, I would have not been able to receive that. So I would have probably questioned whether my experience were real or whether I was being deceived. So God was wise in how bit by bit by bit, the more I got to know him, the easier it was to accept that what I believed wasn't right, because it was contradictory to the God that I now know by experience. So now my knowledge of God is not intellectual, it's experiential, and that will never be challenged by an intellectual argument. No one could argue with me and win that argument that God would send people to a place called hell and punish them eternally and torture them. There is absolutely no way that I could accept that argument. It would never, ever change my mind, because I've been there and seen what God does do there. So my experience and testimony will never be open to someone's opinion or arguing, because I know that I know that I know, because I've experienced it, and that experience has now changed my whole thinking towards that. Yeah. So I would encourage people to just engage God and allow him to show you what he's like. Then that really begins to change what you think he was like, or what you thought he was like, and how he would operate. You know, there is not a doubt in my mind that God could cause California to fall in the sea. And if it happened, I knew it wouldn't be God who was causing that to happen, because I know God. I've experienced him. He's shown me his love and his grace and his mercy and his joy and his peace. I mean, I've experienced it over and over and over and over again, which that is what changed me. No amount of further information would have ever changed me in that way.